Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time. We get to ride home with you in the afternoon. So important we get the truth out there for you, even if it hurts sometimes. We do it. And that's just what it's all about. That's what news is definitely about. You can find us on the radio at iacradio.media, and we are Fox News affiliates there. You can also find us on television, 182 Charter. You can also find us on Abundance Television Syndicated, and that's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on Newscasters.com. As a matter of fact, I got the guy right here that makes it happen at the Newscasters, Clint Day. Clint, thank you so much for allowing us to get the truth out there. It's so important.
Well, Donna, I agree totally, and you're right. The Newscaster studio that's run by Victoria Scott, actually, the day-to-day operation, she's doing an amazing job. We're trying to get more and more conservative podcasts online to get out the news. People ask all the time, where's your source of news? I think TNS is one of the best to go to hear conservative reports of what's really going on the front lines, and we need that venue, if you will, because of what's going on in mainstream media. I just feel like every day I listen to their perspective, and they're just not telling us the truth. They're not telling us the whole story. They're telling us the liberal left view, and we need more conservatives out there telling the truth of what's going on the ground.
Well, in the Bible it says, either go left or right, and don't be in the fence on the middle.
Absolutely. It actually tells us to go to the right, because that's the wise way to go. And that's why it's called right, because it's the right way to go. But anyway, it's one of those things. Again, they're good people, obviously, like has been said by our leadership many times. They're good people on both sides. But the bottom line is we need to protect all life from conception to natural death. And the leftists just not see that worldview. And so we need to have more Christians involved. We need to get out and vote. We need to get out and be a part of the community, part of the solution, rather than sitting around and complaining about it. Get out there and get involved.
Let's talk a little bit about voting. I thought everybody voted my entire life. Even my parents voted against each other. One was a Democrat and one was a Republican.
Me too. My mom, Democrat, dad, Republican. Yes.
But they still voted, even though they thought so different. I mean, they were worlds apart, planets apart on how they felt about everything going on. And so it's so important. But there's so many Christians who don't vote. Why do you think that is?
Well, again, I just don't think their vote they don't feel like their vote matters. It just doesn't make that big of a difference. But the reality it does. In the state of Georgia, where I live, there was like a 10,000 person difference. And it's very interesting how the other side is always able to figure out ways to work the system to their advantage, drop boxes, mailing out ballots. And it's just been an amazing process. And hopefully we've got it more under control in our Republican-led state. At voter ID, I mean, what a basic thing. You got to have ID to go anywhere else, but they want to fight against voter ID. So again, if they say like 30 million American Christians, so-called evangelicals, that don't even get out and vote. Again, they don't want to serve on a jury or whatever. But the bottom line is, you got to get out and vote. You got to make a difference. And some people say to me, well, to me, it's a lesser of two evil votes. They don't like certain attitudes of certain politicians, whatever. They're the way they word people or put people down, whatever they do, they don't like. But I keep coming back, policy over personality.
Absolutely. I think Trump has a great personality himself. It reminds me of my dad. I mean, it's how he was just driven. My dad was a businessman, and he was just driven, to make things happen. And I mean, to me, that's not an abusive personality at all. It's just he's direct and he's to the point. And I love that. I've been missing that the past few decades.
Well, you're 100% correct. I mean, it's a matter of what kind of personality. Again, I have family members that really, as a matter of fact, recently, J.D. Vance did such a great job. Someone very close in my family said, hey, I can vote for him. I may not be able to vote for the other guy. Again, it goes back, just sometimes people have a more genteel, if you will, personality. They don't like that brash New York, or they're not used to it. And again, I go back to who supported the best Supreme Court justice we've ever had. better than George W. Bush, better than Ronald Reagan. I mean, the people he put on the court made a big difference. And the very people, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, most liberal person on the court, who was replaced by a good conservative, she even said that Roe versus Wade was bad, a bad ruling. It was not done right. It forced things on states that should have not happened. And I don't remember her exact reasoning, but even she said it was bad law. And so for it to be rescinded and put in place where the states are allowed, I think that's a very good thing. The thing that I'm very concerned about, though, is Republicans need to learn how to answer that question. We have got to be able to defend life. Hey, for example, I'm very concerned about a woman in a crisis. It really tears at my heart that they have a crisis. But I also want to say this. It's very important that we protect life at conception, because if the most innocent's not protected, no one's protected. And that's the bottom line of it for me. If we don't protect the most innocent in America, then truly no one is protected. So again, from that conception to natural death, we need to protect all lives, because all lives do really matter.
I know some folks who are actually previously Democrats who are voting Republican. And their whole thing about this, they're not crazy about Trump, but it's like, can your platform only be about, kids who don't know what sex they are? I mean, is that your only is that all you can think of as the platform? People are hurting right now financially. I'm talking about real Americans who are boots on the ground, and they don't know what to pay for. And the elderly who are drawing their Social Security, and they have to choose between medicine and food. That's not right. You got to think of the economy sometime.
Absolutely, totally 100% correct. And I went there because of that, like the very thing you just said, but it is about the economy. Food prices up over 24%, at least officially. But you and I both know when we go to the grocery store, it's a lot more high. It's much higher than that. And of course, when it comes back to fuel, it's amazing how they've kind of manipulated fuel prices to come back down. And again, the interest rates, et cetera. And people need to understand, when you bring in 24 million people and you only have so many houses, especially places in so-called blue states that don't allow more houses to be built, supply and demand, basic economics is going to tell you the price is going to go too high because there's so many more people chasing those houses, just basic supply and demand. And yet places like California, they don't even allow developers to build houses anymore. I mean, they restrict them so bad, makes it so hard to build, that no wonder you have a housing crisis where houses are crazily priced. And of course, if you're in it and you're enjoying the appreciation, that's fantastic. But if you're trying to buy a house, it creates incredible trouble, especially for a young couple.
Oh yeah, and I think about that frequently, because and the neat thing about being 65 years old is that you do witness a lot of things throughout, history.
Yes.
And throughout history, every election year. Okay, so you have, gas prices always go up, but something magically happens right around election time. Just a few weeks before election time, the prices start going down. But they're going to go back up again if that current administration gets back in. Why are people so forgetful? Why are they forgetting the previous 3 years? An unreal amount of money people are paying per gallon for gasoline.
Again, I think it goes back to an instant gratification that we Americans are spoiled to have.
Yeah.
We get sick, we want a pill, we want a shot, we want something that's going to get us back on track. And we're fortunate and blessed to be able to have a lot of that can happen a lot of times. But at the same time, I think that's a key thing that God teaches us in life. Like you mentioned, the wisdom that you get. It's not that we're smarter at 65 or whatever. It's just that we've had experiences and we understand cycles, and we understand the economy is going to go up, the economy is going to go down. We've got to just be patient, keep waiting, and keep working at it. And again, I think a lot of people just want the instant gratification, and especially young people. We all remember we were in college and we thought we were all right. We knew all the answers, but we realized soon how smart our parents were right after college. It seems like we realized how smart they really were by giving us wisdom and telling us the right way to go.
I'm just going to have to tell you, a lot of folks in my era laughed about farmers. They really did. But I'll have to tell you, the smartest farmer I know was my granddad. And I'm so glad I hung out with him out on the farm. and saw how he planted things and how he had the fruit come up from it. And he would say things like, this is good. I like my good tomatoes, but you also need to think about the life lesson of this. You got to plant good seed. And it's so that you can get a good reap from it. And he was so right about that. But I mean, the farmers to me they're the smart ones. So let's talk a little bit more about what's happening with FEMA.
Can I just say something about what you just said? I was reading John 15, 1-8 yesterday. It's one of my favorite scripture. I read it a lot of times when I'm praying, and it talks about how sometimes God allows pruning in our lives so we can produce more fruit. And as you go into your next subject, there's a lot of pruning going on in America. And I'm not saying that God necessarily made this happen. For whatever reason, he allowed it to happen as you go into the FEMA issue, right? And you take it in that direction. Let's just face it. I mean, I don't know about you. I had some pretty good damage of limbs. And fortunately for me, the insurance company had called me and said, hey, we need to come inspect your house. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you, right? I was like, oh my goodness, what's my insurance company going to do? But fortunately, they recommended I cut back some oak trees that were near my house. And I'm so glad I did. I looked around my house and I was like, you're right. Those limbs are close to my house. I didn't even really realize that. And so I had them cut very quickly. And so over this storm that came through Helene, we had the outer bands of it to the east, St. Simon's Island area. I was grateful that I had cut those limbs back. And sometimes that's the way God works in our life, right? He'll get us to cut back some limbs for danger. He may cut those limbs for more fruit. And yet we have situations in people's lives right now that are tragic. I mean, people lost their homes, they lost their lives, and FEMA has been slow, yes, to get there. My understanding, J.D. Vance was talking about on Fox News this morning, where when Haiti had an earthquake, the 82nd Airborne was there in 2 days. Well, it took them about a week to get from eastern North Carolina to the west side of the state, and that goes back to leadership. We have got to have leaders that get people moving, and a president that knows what's going on and says, get over there and help those people. We've got this army, we've got these people that are very well trained and capable of helping. Get them out there and get them to work. And they are arriving, but albeit later.
Yeah, and time is of the essence.
That's correct.
I mean, we all fuss about the cable internet being out for a day, right. But think about what those folks are going through. I mean, it's just so core values are extremely important. So I know the Cowboy Church, the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, and that's where we go. And Philip Gilliland is pretty high up in the ranks there. And he has firsthand knowledge of churches getting there like that. And this is another thing. We're mentioning my granddad a lot today. He mentioned the fact that back in his day, the community and the church helped people in the neighborhood. They didn't rely on the government for anything. Is it somebody's house burned down or was it burning? A number of the men from the community would go and just try to put the fire out. If someone passed away, a widow was left by herself, people in the community would get together and bring food. If a widow had a house, the roof needed to be redone, the folks in the community would go in and help. But the church is always the first one to get there. Why is that? You would think the government would be
again, I think it's neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, the first people to come and cut limbs off and trees that had fallen on my driveway were my neighbors. They're taking them out, and it's also to their benefit because they get in and out of this common area we have. But again, it's one of those things, neighbors helping neighbors. Are you okay? And let's check on each other. Let's try to figure out how we can get in there and help. And I think I've seen a ton of videos, TikTok, wherever, that are showing people that are doing that, where people are showing up and, they're thinking about, okay, for example, we've got to rip out some drywall. We're just tired. We've just cleaned out all the mud of the house. And all of a sudden, a group of 12 people with like Jesus t-shirts show up and they start pulling the drywall out for these people. And I've done that with Hurricane Katrina. My son and I went and helped pull out and then put back some drywall. And again, I can only do so much. I can only go so high in a scooter, but I can help place it, get it cut, and hold it and get the screws in there. while other people did their part. And everybody can go do that if they want to and feel led to. And as a matter of fact, we have a prayer group at my house that meets on Monday night. We'll meet tonight. We're going to get together. We're going to help a local church. I think it's Taylor Methodist Church down here, that's going to take a group tomorrow morning up there. And so we're going to help give them financial resources and bedspreads and Benadryl and all the different supplies that they need. They're going to go up there to a local church, and they're going to help with the local church basis. And the people that come there are either they're taking four-wheelers and things to try to get out into the community where people are really hurt.
Yeah, sometimes you can just connect people. I know the Gadsden Mall right down here in Gadsden, Alabama, Kaylee Johnson is an awesome, awesome general manager there. And she is actually over several malls throughout the United States. And so Kaylee called and said, Don, I've got all this food people have donated, but I don't have a way of getting it there. She said, I don't know what to do. And I said, the Cowboy Church. So I called the Cowboy Church, and he said, Wormy is one of the pastors of one of the local Cowboy churches. So everybody calls him Wormy. And so he said, we'll get Wormy on it. He said he has actually a trailer bed, and he's looking for a place to go pick up stuff. So see, that those two wonderful people made a great connection and have helped so many people out there.
Absolutely. That's true. And again, it's a God thing. I mean, it's how God brings it together. I saw a video of a lady saying we needed a front end loader, and all of a sudden one showed up. I mean, it's amazing how God is bringing the people about. And again, I mean, I don't want to get down on FEMA. I don't want to get down on the government organizations, but they're doing it because it's their job.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are Christ followers, they're doing it because of the love of God. They want to love people, love God, love people. They want to get out there and be involved and be the hands and feet of Jesus, be Jesus with skin on. And I think that is so important. If you can't go, I mean, it's, again, there's the Cowboy Church. I think of Samaritan's Purse. I mean, that's the first place. Oh, yeah. I always think about where giving the money. Of course, he's right there in the Boone, North Carolina area, their headquarters. A lot of people from Samaritan's Purse were hurt by this storm. And a lot of the geography of that area, I've heard even like Mount Mitchell or something is like 6,400 feet. And there's areas like 1,100 feet. And that rush of water that just came down from those higher areas with 30 inches of rain, that's why it was so destructive, because people didn't expect it. And again, it gives us a chance to be Jesus with skin on.
I love that. Jesus with skin on. I never heard that. I've just picked up a new one from you. Thank you.
Yes, all right. I've heard it for a while, but I hear you loud and clear. It's so true. And sometimes it's one thing to say I'm going to help you. It's another thing to get out there and do it. And I just think I was actually just dealing with a runoff area in my own driveway. We had poured this new driveway, me and my neighbors. We had kind of a dirt road, so we poured this, and there was a hole that was being formed to the left of the driveway. And it was almost caving in under the new poured driveway. And nobody was doing anything. I'd been out of town a couple of times. I'd come back. And I finally just said, I'm going to get some gravel in there, some small gravel, like, what you'd pave a road with. And then I'm going to put some bigger rocks in there. And I just took care of it. It's one of those things people sit there and we got a problem. And sometimes you just got to say, look, I'm going to find the right people. I could not do it myself because of my muscular dystrophy, but I could find someone that I could direct, I could help pay for, and get that hole filled up, stop the problem. And I think that's a lot of times we expect government to come in here and fix problems. I would not do that. I would, like you just said, the neighbor helping neighbor, get out there on the front line. They're the first ones there. And if the government comes along and they can help, that's great. But that's one of the problems. The church sometimes is not the church. Doesn't stand up and say, we do have solutions, because we do. We can have solutions for adoption, foster care. I mean, go down the list, food banks. We have the solutions, and we don't have to rely on the government.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sometimes attitude is just wonderful. And I've mentioned this to you several times. My son married into a family much better than we are. I mean, this family is absolutely phenomenal. So Brad's father-in-law, Jim Seneth, is a wonderful man. And so his wife passed away, had dementia a couple of years
Uh,
ago, had a
yeah.
daughter who passed away with brain injury. And he always finds the good out of everything. So he lives in Hendersonville, which is about 30 miles south of Asheville. And
Yes.
so they were trying to get in contact with him. They couldn't. They were all worried about him, what have you. Well, he finally emerges. And he said, yeah, 6 trees fell on the house, but I was in the basement with the dog and we're okay. But you know something? I've been thinking about building onto the redoing the kitchen. That's all he said out of it. But he didn't want Larissa to worry. I mean, he just wanted my daughter in love. And he said, I mean, he can always think of the right thing to say.
Absolutely. That is so true. And, you have people like Elon Musk who gets the Starlink right in there and gets as much communication ability as possible. And you're so right. A lot of people simply did not have communication. Our phones were not working right after Hurricane Helene through our area. Verizon was down. The electricity was down. Fortunately, I had a generator for 2 days, but the second night it went out. And, again, you're just grateful for the 2 days you had it. And then 2 days I didn't have power, but Brunswick had power. And we were able to go over there and get meals and that type of thing, or go see a movie, whatever. But again, a lot of areas don't have that. It was so broad. And so, again, it's exciting to see how the church's reaction, the Christian 501c3s like Samaritan Purse. And again, nothing against Red Cross, but I'm sure they do a good job. But I would give my money to Samaritan's Purse, Salvation Army, a Christian organization, before I'd give it to a secular organization, because again, the Christians are going over there with ministry in mind. It's a ministry, right? And again, I'm sure Red Cross people can have ministry in their head too, and I'm sure there are a lot of Christians that are with Red Cross. But again, I want that frontline gospel. And like we said earlier, Jesus was skin on frontline things.
That's the way to go. Absolutely. So many things, so many life lessons that we hear. We weren't affected that much. I mean, just rain is basically all it was. But I'm also thinking of, we were talking about the election coming up and Christians not voting. You have to think about the core value, not only as a person, but as an organization, such as the Democrats, the Republican. Now, are Republicans perfect? No. I mean, I'm a Republican and I'm not perfect. But I'm saying core values are extremely important. And I wanted to get the word out about President Trump. He has had food and canned goods and water brought out to those people as well. But I'm not hearing that it's crickets. I'm not hearing that in the news organizations.
Right, I agree. And I think it's a major advantage Christians have, is the ability to give their own money to help bring about those changes and to help with needs, as opposed to relying on the government to do it. And again, that those frontline people are right there doing it. And I agree, Donald Trump, from what I've heard he's given as much as $25 million of his own money. I really don't know if that's true or not. I guess it's the typical thing. You got to fact check. But the bottom line is he did show up. He got to Georgia as quick as he could. He'll get to the Carolinas as quick as he can. And I think, again, that goes back to leadership. It goes back to someone saying, I'm going to find a need and I'm going to fill it. That's one thing my dad always talked about when he was in the Days Inn business and started Days Inn. He always told us, find a need and fill it. And that's exactly what we need to do on the front line to help people dig out of the hole they're in, get out of the mud they're in, and rebuild their lives. And don't forget about them. It's one thing we come in. It's like someone that's just lost a spouse or something. We come in and everybody's there, everybody's caring for them. But 30 days later, where are they? I think it's so important that you do the follow-up. You call them back. How are you doing? What can we do? And so carry out what they need to help rebuild their lives, particularly in areas most hit by this storm.
We've been talking about people who aren't voting, Christians who aren't voting and haven't, because they think it does work. So, I mean, you just have to go through the trenches and make it happen. But let's talk about the VP debate. There's a starking, huge difference between the two men up there.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the way JD handled it versus the other guy?
Well, I mean, I heard that Vance won 51-49 in the polling. And of course, for content, I would give him an 80-20, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
from
I would
my
too.
from my perspective, I was very interested that close family friend that has had real trouble, with our two presidential people, literally said I could vote for JD. And the way he handled things, I think it was wise to where when you do agree, to acknowledge that I agree with this part of what you're saying,
Mhm.
but I don't agree with this part, and how God allowed that human nature side of his, that gentle side of him, the real person to come out on the screen. And the other guy, was just, to me, looked very scared, very out of control. But it goes back to the discipline of what is JD and what has Donald Trump been doing the whole time. They've been talking to the media every day. They've been interviewing the hard interviews. The other side is not. They think the best thing to do is to say very little and let the media build you up to get you into the presidency, just like they did with Joe Biden. If they'd let Joe Biden speak, he would not be the president of the United States. If he'd come out of his basement, he would not have been the president of the United States. And they're using the same tactics with her. They're running these warm-hearted commercials, but they're not talking about the real issues. And again, I go back to, like you just said, it's the economy, it's illegal immigration, it's the bad things their policies have done to hurt people, not help people.
Mhm. Let's just pretend we didn't know who the Democrat was and who the Republican person was in this debate. Just based on demeanor, just based on the way they reacted to questions, which one do you think did the better job?
Clearly, J.D. Vance. He was very well trained. He was very well polished. He had, again, I go back to no pain, no gain. He's had those painful interviews with the local mean press, if you will, or the national mean press. He's had the hard questions. Walsh and Harris have totally avoided them. And we know that to be true based on the facts.
How much do you think the way he grew up had to do with that? Because
Well,
I
I
think he
think,
didn't have the best
yes.
home life.
Absolutely. Oh, the movie and the book that he wrote is just incredible. If you watch that, it will really move your heart. And again, they try to keep making Walt sound like this great school teacher and old coach, and he goes hunting and all that. But that persona is not, that to me is not being coming across as real. I think J.D. Vance is coming across as very real, as a former Marine, a family man, someone that has really overcome a lot of odds, and obviously very smart, because you wouldn't be able to go to Yale without having that ability to pass the grades to get through the school. And so I'm very impressed by him. And I come back to, though, I want them to be very solid in where their faith is. And I want to be very solid in promoting the conservative positions and not feel like you almost have to apologize for
Sometimes though within the Republican Party will beat up on people, because I remember when President Trump mentioned J.D. Vance, so many people within the Republican Party were against him, and I couldn't figure that out. But now I had read his book and I saw the movie, so I understood his background, because I kind of went through a little bit of that. Not as bad, but what I mean is when you grow up in a troubled home, that's just you learn different ways and different techniques in order to survive. So this guy goes to Yale. He didn't have money behind him. It wasn't who he knew. It's exactly what you said. He had to be smart enough to pass the exams. No other way could he go to Yale.
Try it. And again, it wasn't a family connection like you just stated. And again, I come back to the reality of, if you win an election, as you know, 55-45, they'll call it a landslide. But still 45% of the people voted against you. And anytime if two people always agree, one of them's unnecessary, right? And so the reality, just like in a marriage, right? And so the bottom line is we've got to support the person that reflects our values the most. And I just think about the Democratic Party. Is there any city in America that's run by Democrats? Most of them are not places you'd want to live. And the states, people are leaving those states in droves because they don't like the results of what's going on. Even like we've talked about, Elon Musk, he has to leave California that was trying to tell him a daughter of his that was going through transition wasn't allowed to, the school was not allowed to tell him as a dad what was going on with his child. And that's crazy. We should be the ones raising our children, not the government.
That's right. And you got your former school teacher VP for Kamala Harris, who was very instrumental in having women's feminine products in the boys' restroom, and then other products in the girls' restroom. How mixed up is that? If you're a Christian, you really can't figure out who to vote for.
Right, I agree totally. And then he is in the debate quoting scripture about helping the least of these or whatever it was. And I mean, I totally agree. We need to help the least of these, but not at the expense of what your morals are. And again, Romans 1 talks about it. When you become a reprobate mind, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that's what we're seeing. How bad can it get? What was acceptable 10 years ago that would not be acceptable 10 years ago, but it's now acceptable. And we keep going down this sliding road of destruction. And we wonder why there's so many problems. There's so much crime. There's so much suicide. There's so many challenges going on. It's because of that lack of moral clarity. And the Word of God is very clear. If we obey the Word of God, we're going to be blessed. If we disobey the Word of God, we're going to pay a price. And we've all done that. I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody, but we are to be a fruit inspector. We're to know them by their fruit. And the fruit of Kamala Harris and Walsh, it is not good when it comes to a moral view, the worldview of Christ, right? And I would say, again, Trump and our guy Vance, they have their problems. But the bottom line is their core beliefs are more in line with what I believe the Word of God wants us to do. Again, that's taking care of the less privileged people, protecting your borders, protecting your family, doing the best you can to pick people up. Don't just give them handouts, but pick them up and help them accomplish what their God-given dream is. And I truly do believe that the Republican Party in today's country has that vision that's more clear and more direct that we want to support. And I'm praying that we will do that. They talk about the attack on democracy, and what Donald Trump has done is nothing compared to what the left is doing, using the courts to come against their enemies, putting people in jail for minor offenses. When they were like January 6th, when they're told to come into a building and then they're charged with trespassing, but the security guard told them to come in. I don't know how you can fix that. But look at in Minneapolis and what happened with their governor, who did not protect the minority-owned businesses in his own city. If he won't protect his own city, what makes you think he's going to protect America?
Absolutely. We have to go into a commercial break. I hate to break this.
Yes.
We're going to run a row, but let's hurry up and we'll come back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth definitely matters. Ouch, sometimes it hurts, but you know we got to hear it. That's just the way it is. You can find us on the radio at icradio.media. That's in Christradio.media, where we are Fox News affiliates. Wanted to also thank all of our sponsors. We got the best. We have sponsors who have been with us for years. This show has actually been going on for 19 years. I don't know if I told you, Clint. Coming up in April of this coming year, it was actually April 1st of all days, I decided to start this show. People thought it was a joke. You know, oh, you're not really starting a show. You've never done television. You've never done this. You've never done that. And I said, how fitting it would be April Fool's Day that I did 19 years ago. So working on 20 years coming
Fantastic.
up in April. So I'm just tickled to death. We carried the show. Had it in Jacksonville. Then we had the show, carried it to Charlotte, North Carolina, stayed there for a long time, and came back, and we're just excited about all the wonderful things that are happening. And I'll have to tell you, Clint, you guys have been a huge help. The Newscasters studio. What's happening with the Newscasters? It's growing.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Yes, the Newscaster studio run by Victoria Scott and Murray Edwards doing a great job on the technical side and the computer things that need to be done. But I am so excited about it. We're encouraged because every day we're getting more broadcasters and podcasters to get the news out there from the conservative viewpoint. And again, we want to be a place where people can come and find a conservative source of news that they can trust. You keep mentioning about how truth sets you free. And that's one of my favorite things to talk about is John 8:32, where we know the word of God says the truth will set you free. And so that's what we want to be about at TNS and Newscaster Studio, is to get the truth out there, especially with people on the front lines like yourself that really do know what's going on in their local community. And even like you just mentioned, we're seeing an influx of some legal immigrants flown in here by the United States government, and they're being fast-tracked to vote. The other day in the debate, Trump might have gotten off on some issues that didn't matter as much, talking about other things relating to illegal immigration and even some legal immigration. But the biggest point you've even made is how in these small towns like Springfield, Ohio, say 60,000 people, all of a sudden they get an influx of 15,000 Haitians who are fast-tracked to become U.S. citizens, who are fast-tracked to allowed to be voters. And who are they going to vote for when they start voting? They've been putting them in swing states. My understanding in Georgia, it's hundreds of thousands under the radar. And again, you think about a count of 10,000 votes that made a difference in the last election, maybe 11,000. And these hundreds of thousands of so-called legal immigrants that are fast-tracked to U.S. citizenship, it's a very scary thing. And there's no consequences for them. I mean, what's going to be the consequence?
Well, and then they're being inserted into pockets of Alabama.
Absolutely.
Never, ever thought we would see that happen.
That's right.
And I love everybody, but I want to talk about not only how unfair this is to be infiltrated with people who can't even speak your language in schools. It's not fair to the existing students. It's not fair to the teachers. You need to have people in place who can speak their language. It's not fair to the Haitians. How are they going to learn anything? I know in a small area, Albertville, Alabama, over half the school is illegals. They've even done away with the football team. I thought I'd never see that happen.
Wow.
Because we're all about college. Well, not only college football, but we're into high school football in this area. And I think that was a turning point for a lot of folks here when they lost their football team.
Well, again, I guess they didn't have the money or didn't have the participants. But again, you go back to what you just said. I'm amazed. Again, I do not blame a lot of people for wanting to come here.
Sure.
I mean, we have a lot of people in the Atlanta area, and especially in health care. There's companies up there that take care of older people, including my mom. She has a caring company that helps her. And most of the people are from Africa, Ghana or Nigeria, or some are from Guatemala. And I'm always amazed at that first generation. They come here and they have a very difficult time learning the language, but their children are learning the language in the schools. And eventually those people that come here, it blows my mind. They come here virtually, the hardworking ones, virtually nothing. And the next thing you know, they own a house, they have nice cars. And so we know that's the opportunity. We know even our own ancestry, we came over here some way, probably. We weren't not necessarily native, if you will. But again, in my case, we came here, our family came here, worked hard, and accomplished what they've accomplished. And that's what we want. We want people that will come here and work hard, but we do not want able-bodied men that are capable of creating war or doing crimes. And that's the thing that we don't know. A lot of these people, hundreds of thousands of them, have come from prisons, and they came from prisons and they're committing crimes here. And our government said, well, they don't commit any more crimes than our general population. And you go, well, the bottom line is if they weren't here, they wouldn't be committing any crimes if you hadn't allowed him here illegally. And we all have heard stories or know people that have been hurt directly by the illegal immigrant that came here and committed crimes against people of our country.
No one loves this little Russian girl who is a daughter-in-law of mine more than I do. But now she came here when she was 9 years old, and wonderful parents. Like I've already said it once today. My son married into the world's best family, much better than we are.
That's a good thing.
They're wonderful folks, but they wanted to make sure that Larissa and her two sisters could speak English. So they hired tutors for that. They wanted to make sure they were Americans, that they, as by the way, October the 1st is my husband Phil's birthday. Also, October the 2nd is when my daughter-in-law became an American citizen.
Wow.
She actually celebrates that more than she does her birthday.
Wow.
She just loves being an American. And so it hurts her to see people who are coming in the wrong way, who are not offering to learn to speak the English language, who are not offering to learn about American history and all of those things. It really hurts her.
Absolutely. I totally understand that. And she comes from a system, when we think about what Putin is doing over there and killing his enemies and using the courts against his enemies and forcing people into military service that they don't want to do and fighting a war that he thought it'd be over in 2 weeks. I clearly do not believe that he thought he'd be fighting this thing so many years later with hundreds of thousands of Russians losing their lives. I think about our entire war in Vietnam, we lost 58,000 men. And yet over in Russia, it's my understanding it's over 500,000 have died fighting for what they're trying to fight for there. And I'm grateful. I mean, I'm one of those conservatives that do want to defend Ukraine. I'm concerned about what's going on and the advancements of Russia. I'm excited about the side effects that have happened, including bringing in Finland and Sweden in NATO. And there's a lot of good things that have come from that very evil situation. Again, I go back. I do not think that would have happened under a Trump leadership. I don't think the attack on Israel that we recognize today, October 7th, where over roughly 1,200 Jews were killed by Hamas and over 4,500 injured in that invasion. And again, I go back to, if America was attacked that way, we would fight back. At least I hope we would, and we'd fight back with force. And I think Israel clearly has every right to defend themselves. And I think the real head of the snake needs to be Iran, and we need to quit giving them money, quit giving them opportunities to trade oil. And I think a way that Israel can do that is by attacking their oil to create higher prices, which is the downside of it. But at the same time, they have a right to defend themselves. And people get down on Trump about canceling the program where they were preventing, they say, Iran from getting nukes. But all that did was delay it about 5 or 10 years. It didn't stop them from developing nuclear bombs. It just delayed them. And we can't delay them. We have to stop them. And I hope Israel will stop them. I think Saudi Arabia and Jordan and the UAE and other countries around them are cheering them on. Please stop Iran from a nuke, because they're the Shiite religion. They want that Masadi or whatever he's called to come back, and their so-called savior. Now I see him as an antichrist figure, right? And they want them to come back and take over the world for their false religion, for their moon god, if you will. And I'm just telling you, that's a very scary proposition. The Chinese, the Russians, they want to live. A lot of those people, the radicals in Iran, they want to die and get their virgins. They don't care about life the same way we do. And we need to understand that. People need to understand, and God's word is clear. I'll bless those that bless Israel, and I'll curse those that curse them. It's Genesis 12:3. And the whole world is going to be blessed by them. And we are blessed through their medicine, their technology, all the things they come up with it. They're just brilliant. That little country, the land size of New Jersey, that blesses this world. And a lot of Christians think we replaced them. And I'm not one of those that believe we replaced them. I believe we were grafted in with the same blessing. But the Jewish people, they're special in the eyes of God. There's no question in my mind.
Absolutely. Sometimes I just don't understand how people think. I just, and we're talking about all the differences between Trump. How do you think Trump, okay, let's say he wins the election. and I hope he does. I pray he does. But let's say he does. How do you think, because of so many components, I mean, so many things are happening right now that it looks like there's no hope, but I think there is. I've got to think there is. And a lot of folks, say, well, we don't want Trump. He's, we talked about that several times on the show. But we have a pastor of a church. We're not asking for a pastor. We're asking for a leader. And,
Right.
Moses was a leader. But now also his VP was practically Aaron. I mean, you got to say that he had a speech impediment. So many people would have looked at Moses with a speech impediment and would ask, how could he lead the children of, how could he do it? He's not polished, so to speak.
Right.
He's not able to do that. I kind of equate Trump as being kind of like the Moses.
Absolutely. Well, you look at who you pick as your leadership around you, and I totally agree. I mean, Joshua was there, his top commanding officer, and the guy that eventually took over, he was training him to take over. And maybe that's what Trump thought with Vance, that he's a good-looking young man, got a beautiful wife, beautiful children, great background, great story, that he could be a future leader of the party, which I think he's clearly going to be.
I do.
But at the same time, I just want them to stand firm in their conviction, know what they believe. And that's the thing about Trump. Again, he surrounds himself with the really good people. And yet, when he makes a decision and he realizes the person's not doing a good job, he makes a choice to get rid of them. This president, Biden, has not chosen to get rid of people that have done a bad job. The Secret Service, we rely on them, we trust them, we want to believe they're going to do the right thing. But doggone it, when the president was shot at, some whole heads should roll. But it took a long time to get rid of the head of the group that was heading it up. And again, that's one of those things, that failure in leadership. It's inexcusable what has happened with the president, with President Trump and those near-death experiences. But of course, it's the divine hand of God that is allowing him to stay here on this earth. We know if that man had not looked to the right, again, we talk about going to the right because it's the right way to go. It's the wise way to go. He looked to the right and it literally saved his life. That's no coincidence.
Let's talk about this because it seems like different opinions and choices that are made by the government depends on who you are. So let's just pretend this very same thing had happened when President Obama was in office. How do you think the government would have handled that differently than they're handling this two assassination attempts with President Trump?
Right. I mean, I think it'd be totally different. I think it'd be, in the media would be playing it every day. They would be talking about how it was motivated by racism or whatever. And the one thing that I love about Alveda King, for example, that she's the niece of MLK. I love what she says. We're all members of the human race. We're one race. And we really need to focus in on that. If you need my blood and I have your blood type, I can help you. And that's the way we need to keep the focus on being members of the human race. What is going to be in the best interest of everyone, not just certain segments of society. And again, I believe the Republican policies will help the smallest person in the country, if you will, to the wealthiest person. I believe everyone in between, the so-called middle class, or however that's defined today. I'm always amazed again that people will not answer questions. How are you going to make the economy better? Or if you're not better off today, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I think that's the best question you can ask people. Most people would say, I am not. Most people would say because of the increased cost of goods, the higher interest rates, and literally, I mean, it can affect hundreds of thousands of dollars in a value of a house you could buy by higher interest rates. They're almost twice as high. And that reality, it was used to slow down the economy. It was on fire from all the government spending, as we know, that created all the inflation. And again, that real compounded effect of that. That's the thing about interest we need to understand is the compounding effect of it. It's one of the most incredible things God set up is compounding interest. And just because prices are up 25% in food, there's a compounding effect to that. and it keeps going up. It's going up 3% a year. You got to remember that other 25% already happened, and it's compounding at this new lower rate. But it still is still there, is the point. It didn't go away. They act like it went away, but they forget about the compounding effect of those higher interest rates.
You're absolutely right. You know what? That was actually taught in school, in my elementary school, fourth grade. So I had a teacher who said, would you rather have $100,000 now, or would you rather have a penny and let it compound? Well, all of us were going, we want it now, the $100,000.
Right, and you let it double every 30 days, right? You double it every day for 30 days. You'll have over $1 million. And it's so true. You think, I want it now. But you think about that compounding effect, it really is amazing. So I'm glad your school taught you that. And again, that's those are fundamental things. I have young people tell me all the time, they never taught me how to balance a checkbook and debits and credits. They never taught me that. And if you don't learn it in college, like if you're a business major, you're going to learn it. But if you're a sociology major, you're not going to learn that stuff.
But it's so important, though, kids learn this stuff at an early age.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to, so you can understand it. We went to elementary school, and we were selling seeds.
Absolutely.
And to raise some money for a school project. I think it was equipment to go outside in the schoolyard. And so I learned really fast. I mean, you go throughout the neighborhood and you sell seeds. You keep the money for the school. You don't spend any of that money. And that's what my parents taught me, and my grandparents, would buy, even though later on I found out the seeds weren't that good. But anyway, they wanted to help their kids and their grandkids go to school, and have the things we needed. But those things are so important. 1 minute left in this segment. What would you like to tell the folks before we go?
Well, again, I think it's so important we recognize, you take $1 a day for 40 years growing at 10%. It's almost $1 million. It's almost $200,000. Excuse me. It's almost $200,000. $1 a day, 40 years, growing at 10%. And the average stock market's going to grow a little bit more than that every year over your lifetime. And I just think that we really need to have that long-term perspective. We've got to realize $1 a day. So take $5 a day, that cup of Starbucks coffee, whatever you're buying, $5 a day at 10% a year over 40 years, $5 a day. It's almost $1 million. And so I want to encourage you, keep that long-term perspective. And what you can do today, like you say, sow those seeds for benefit tomorrow.
Absolutely. And parents, if they're not teaching it in school, you're responsible for teaching it to your kids. Absolutely. Clint Day, thank you so much for being with me. It's always such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And we got to trust God. We got to trust God through it all. We got to be prepared, not scared.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for watching. You're the reason we do this, and I know you watch because we have awesome guests, and Clint Day is one of them. So thank you, and hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. Take care. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.